Hey there, EB here on the Anything But Bland weekly update. It's Thursday afternoon. Pretty busy week sports wise in the NBA. We had the Preakness last week, which we'll talk about journalism, who won the race. Lots of politics this week with yesterday, the South African president was in the Oval Office. Trump played a video for him where he claims that ethnic genocide is going on in South Africa with the white farmers, that they're being killed in droves. There's no evidence of that. There's clearly some sentiment uh, from some level, some segments of society there that there should be uh, more attention paid to the economic disparity between the white farmers and black farmers, and there is some probably acts of terrorism against some white farmers, but I don't believe it's a genocide. Um, Yesterday, we also got word for the first time that the Defense Department has accepted the gift from Qatar of the Flying Palace, the airplane that's worth approximately $400 million. You remember last week, there was a lot of scuttlebutt up in the Capitol with John Thune, the majority leader in the Senate, Josh Hawley, and some other senators, even some House members who said that they wouldn't go along with the United States accepting a gift like that. Well, Trump just basically said, go screw you. Pete Hegseth, who probably cuts the lawn for Trump at Mar-a-Lago, who will do anything for him, will who will bend over backwards to kiss Trump's ass. He accepted the plane, and they're going to start modifying the plane for Air Force One. The question is whether it's going to be done in time for the end of his term in 2027. Yesterday, early this morning, actually, the sweeping new big beautiful bill passed the House. There was some holdups at the last minute by Mike Lawler, who um, wanted an unlimited deduction for state and local income tax. They originally said it was going to be $30,000 that you can deduct, because in New York, they pay high taxes, state and local, and they don't get that deduction on the federal level. They increased it to 40,000, so they got his vote, and they got the vote of Roy. Roy always is the Freedom Caucus guy who says, I'm never going to vote for this bill because there's not enough cuts. Evidently, they put some poison pills in there that for Medicaid, you're going to have to work and qualify to work at the end of, I think, 2026 as opposed to 2029. The only ones that didn't vote for it were two Republicans. They could afford three of them to defect. They couldn't afford three to defect, only two. The Democrats keep losing seats because yesterday Connolly died. He was had esophageal cancer from Virginia. Another House member who was running with cancer, he died after the election. So I think it's 220 to 212 or 223 to 212, something like that right now. The Democrats are going to have to run some special elections on some seats. But this sweeping new bill has killed the bond market, because we recognize, the market does, that this is going to increase the national debt. It's going to blow the deficit sky high, because they're not taking in enough money to offset against all the spending that they're going to be doing. Remember, these tax cuts that were supposed to sunset out, that Trump put into 2017, are going to continue on. And there's additional tax cuts for the wealthy. There is cuts that are going to be substantial to Medicaid and SNAP. SNAP is food programs for the poor, which are essential in school and out of school for families that are below the poverty level and need this kind of public assistance to stay alive. The Medicaid is just disgraceful to cut health care for the needy. And it's a typical Trump bill that a lot of this will sunset at the end of his term. So it's just going to saddle the next administration and those to come with just a deficit that's going to be able to, that will choke a horse. Um, the bond market again fell because there's no confidence in our debt. We believe the bond market, it believes there's going to be rising interest rates because of inflation. So this is going to be interesting when it gets to the Senate. We're going to hear a lot of sound and fury with the Republicans saying they don't like it. But at the end of the day, they're going to fall in line. They have fallen in line almost on everybody except Matt Gaetz and a couple other people that Trump named to his cabinet. And when Trump went up to the Capitol earlier this week and started flexing his muscles, telling these House members they got to go along with it, they did. There is no spine at all in Congress anymore. It's completely to bend at the will at Trump's knee. Willow's the legend of true crime. Kitty Lohr says that her husband or fiance was upset about this bill this morning. I was too. Don't think it's fitting in with the traditional Republican conservative view of spending cuts and having so few tax increases for billionaires. So according to this bill, you won't be taxed on tips. You won't be taxed on Social Security. That's something that Trump ran on. Yesterday, two Israeli embassy members were killed outside the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. They were about to become engaged, a lovely couple. A pro-Palestinian gunman shot these two lovely couple and killed them. It's a disgrace. I've already talked about the airplane. I think that's a disgrace. The fact that the United States would accept this type of gift. Again, this isn't the Statue of Liberty. This is a mechanical thing. This is a true Trojan horse being brought into our country. We're going to have to take the plane apart just to be able to see if there's anything in there regarding listening devices. Some nutbag blew up a fraternity clinic in California and blew up a half a block. Again, this is the hard terrorist right-wing part of the Republican Party that believes in pro-life, and you're entitled to believe in pro-life, and that is a personal opinion, but you're not entitled to blow up fertility clinics or take out doctors who may participate in reproductive freedom. James Comey, we had the issue of 8647. He was walking along a beach. He saw an arrangement of seashells that said 8647. He claimed that he didn't know that there was a connotation to 86, meaning get rid of. He just thought of replacing 47. He had posted it on his Instagram and account and Facebook account, and then quickly took it down. Obviously, a lot of the Republicans justifiably were upset at James Comey, as I was too. I mean, a former FBI director, he just shouldn't be getting involved in politics like this. He had the interview with the Secret Service. He was on TV afterwards, still making fun of it, which I thought was in poor taste. He wrote another true crime novel, and he was hawking that on TV. Really disappointing in kind of James Comey's behavior, to be honest. The inspector generals, 19 of them have been fired. It turns out that the inspector generals have recovered and saved more money than Doge has in 3 months of supposedly we're going to save $1 trillion, and they haven't even come within 85% of that, 15% of it. They barely have saved $50 billion for all the fanfare. And then the offsetting costs of people going on unemployment is going to have to be calculated in that as well. Trump fired them because he didn't feel like the inspector general were for loyalty issues, didn't think that they were loyal to them. The inspector generals aren't supposed to be loyal to anybody except ferreting out waste, fraud, and abuse. Kash Patel said that he was going to close the DC FBI building and transfer 1,500 workers into the field. I'm all for transferring those 1,500 workers into the field. Not sure you should close the FBI office since it's so close to the White House. Not sure the government's going to ever be able to get rid of that building. It's full of asbestos. Um, we also have Jake Tapper's book, Original Sin, coming out. Can't wait to read it. It does seem that Biden was so much worse off than we were led to believe. Um, I kind of blame where we are as a country on two people. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who, obviously was a courageous woman. She was asked in the Obama administration to give up her seat on the Supreme Court so he can appoint somebody. Selfishly, like most judges uh, who are lifetime appointments, she didn't want to give up her seat. She ended up dying, and it cost us a seat on the Supreme Court. And so I blame her for her selfishness. I also blame Joe Biden for basically propping up Joe Biden. Joe Biden ran and said he was going to basically be a transition president to the next generation. Should have run and served one term. He would have gone down in history as being a tremendous statesman. But it seems like they were an incredibly selfish family. It does seem like that Joe Biden, when you hear about Original Sin, the book by Jake Tapper, that there was a lot of people that were covering for him. And there's a real question on whether he was actually involved in the day-to-day administration of his presidency. He has prostate cancer, stage 4, very serious prostate cancer that has gone to his bones. We feel, tremendous sympathy for that. I find it hard to believe that it just arose since the election. I think that something like this has been around for a while. His doctor, who did annual exams, and I know most presidents are reluctant to release financial information, but he seemed to, like Trump's doctor, sugarcoat the health condition of Joe Biden. Supposedly, Joe Biden didn't get a PSA test, I guess, or a digital exam that the doctors do on your annual physical to have his prostate checked since 2014. I guess when you turn 70, they don't check it anymore, but you can get prostate cancer up until you die, even in your 80s or 90s. And clearly Joe Biden's a poster child for that. Last week, Donald Trump trashed Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen. We already know how she feels about Taylor Swift. Bruce Springsteen made some impolite comments about President Trump overseas. Didn't think he should do that. I don't ever like anybody bad mouthing the United States or our president when they're not on United States soil. I didn't agree when Clinton was in the 60s protesting against the Vietnam War on foreign soil. And in the first Trump administration, I did not agree when Trump was in Helsinki and he badmouthed our intelligence community and basically said that he believed Vladimir Putin on the Russiagate stuff more than our intelligence committee. Bruce Springsteen is a tremendous talent. Don Trump said, he's a low life, that he's not talented, that no one likes him. That's just simply not true. He's one of the greatest musicians and songwriters than we've had in the history of music. The fact that for 40 years the guy sells out every stadium and each concert's 3.5 hours by a guy that's 74 years old is pretty amazing. Last Friday, the Supreme Court held that the Trump administration cannot use the Alien Enemies Act to deport people without due process. Due process of 2 hours, or giving somebody notice of 2 hours that they're sending them out of the country, is not due process. So the Supreme Court finally stood up for that and said that wasn't the purpose of the Alien Enemies Act. The Trump administration has been transferring some illegal immigrant prisoners who are some really bad guys to Sudan, even though only one of the 7 was from Sudan. And that may be against the judge's order. So the fact that Homeland Security is vetting a pitch for a TV reality show where immigrants will compete against each other and the winner gets United States citizenship, I think is really a disgrace. I mean, this isn't like The Apprentice where, you got to form a charity or a business and, you got to make it successful or you're fired. What are illegal immigrants going to do? Is it who picks the tomatoes the fastest? I mean, it's so degrading and demeaning that I can't even believe it's under consideration. Last week, we had the New Jersey transit employee strike of 266,000 people, which affected commuting into New York City. Those transit employees were the lowest paid people in the nation. South African whites are now getting refugee status. Nobody from Ukraine gets it who's in the middle of a war, but because Trump thinks that they're under a potential genocide, they're getting refugee status from the White House. I think that's a direct payoff to Elon Musk. Musk is very combative right now. He knows that his popularity is, essentially lost, probably 50 percentage points. He knows that he has hurt Tesla and his companies by being involved in Doge, and he's getting very combative with those that he's interviewing with. There's genocide going on in the Congo. Is Trump willing to give the African Americans who are the subject to that genocide, the black ones, refugee status? No, he's not letting those people in the country simply because they're black. Brock Purdy, the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, for 4 years we've been hearing that he earns, the most $600,000 to $800,000 a year. He's a starting quarterback for the last 3 years or 4 years for the 49ers. That he has to live with a roommate. Well, he finally got paid off. He got a $265 million 5-year contract with $181 million guaranteed. He's now the 7th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. It's a contract that, the 49ers had to do. I'm not so sure he's the 7th best quarterback in the NFL, but there simply isn't a lot of good game day quarterbacks in the NFL. So good for them. They're earning money. There was a transgender in Greenville charged with threatening the life of Nancy Mace. Of course, I've been doing battle with Nancy Mace. I represent Brian Musgrave. Yesterday, I had a quote in the state newspaper. She got on her high horse again and started talking about cameras and hidden cameras. There was no hidden camera in the condominium that my client owned with Patrick, her old boyfriend. It was a Google camera on top of a refrigerator. I have 4 of them in my house. They're white. I have one in my living room, one in my window in the dining room. I have one in the kitchen and one in the den. We like to see what our dogs are doing during the day when we're away. So it's not hidden in an air conditioning vent, wasn't hidden in a plant. It's just, she's like Faulkner's idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. I said that, her behavior has been disgraceful as of late, and she certainly hasn't comported herself that she should be considered as a serious contender to be a governor, and certainly not serving this country on a federal level. Scotty Scheffler, I mean, what can you say? He's unbelievable. This is his 3rd major championship that he won last week at the PGA. He's won each of his championships by more than 3 strokes. Only Jack and Tiger won 15 tournaments before they were 29 years old. Scotty Scheffler is the 3rd. Scotty is just an amazing golfer. He's mentally tough. He came back hard on the back 9. He's well liked, and he's clearly heads and tails above everybody else on the tour. Now, Tiger and Jack won their 15 tournaments before they were 24 years old. It took Scotty, who's 28, to win 15, but he has many more victories to come. The Belmont Stakes at Pimlico, the Preakness at Pimlico last week, Journalism, who came from like 9 back in the last 100 yards. His last 10 yards were so fast. He won. He took 2nd at the Kentucky Derby. The winner of the Kentucky Derby didn't race in the Preakness. I thought that was horrible. We're going to have to start spreading out these races, because their trainer for the horse that won in the Kentucky Derby said that because it was so muddy and wet, that 2 weeks wasn't enough time for the horse to recover. And I tend to agree. I think there should be almost 3 to 4 weeks in between each one of these races, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. So we should see how he does in the Belmont. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are having, I think, a press-made feud going on in the women's NBA. Paige Beckers had her first game last night. She had a double-double, 12 points with 10 assists. She plays for Dallas, the team in Dallas. Caitlin Clark had a triple-double, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. She's a real deal. So is Paige Becker. OKC is up 1-0 on the Timberwolves. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander from Canada, who plays for OKC, finally broke the Jokic juggernaut and won the MVP in basketball. The Knicks-Pacers game last night was amazing. 135 points. Jalen Brunson had 43 points, but Tyrese Halliburton made the key shots down the stretch. He had 31 points, and it reminded the Knicks fans of Reggie Miller. The Subway Series last week, the Yankees beat the Mets in both games. There are 2 in-depth articles this week that clearly show that Juan Soto is unhappy in New York, that he's pouting around the clubhouse. Certainly his baseball average is 247, and he's usually a 300 hitter. He's got 8 home runs. In comparison, Ohtani has 17 home runs. And that he really misses Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, and some of his Yankee teammates. He was very happy to see them this weekend. And the article said that there was, it was his family who wanted him to go with the Mets, not necessarily him. George Wendt died, who was on Cheers. You remember prior to Seinfeld, I thought, other than MASH, this had the perfect cast with Ted Danson, Coach, Woody Harrelson, the Postman, the waitress, Rhea Perlman, and George Wendt was a big heavyset guy that would sit down at the bar. He'd walk in, everybody say, Norm! Just a great, famous character, very funny, was a Chicago Bears fan. He died at 76 years old. That's young. So that is all I have to add on that this week. The P. Diddy trial continues to get more and more gross. Cassie's mother testified as to her injuries. He also wanted $20,000 from her that the mother paid to P. Diddy. More escorts talked this week. There was a rapper witness yesterday. I do think that Cassie's testimony is very important again, but this isn't a trial about domestic violence or a girlfriend beater, which he certainly is. It's a racketeering trial, so I think the government's still going to have to show of sex trafficking and that this was part of a criminal enterprise. I think that the jury is going to hold Diddy's celebrity status against him. The Karen Reed retrial says if jurors can't agree and there's a hung jury, there could be a third trial. Very rarely are there. John Gotti had 3 trials after 2 hung juries, but the defense is pushing hard on police misconduct, and does it matter? Yes, I think it does. A lot of the conduct that the police exhibited towards Karen Reed was troublesome. You can try a case again with the same evidence, and you can expect a different result because, 12 jurors could look at it this way this time, and next time look at it differently. I think the public outcry hurts her chance of getting off. I tend to think that this time there may be a guilty verdict, but not sure. Could be another hung jury verdict. The Brian Kohberger trial, the defense now has come up and said that they believe that there was another person that was responsible for this. Someone asked, can this be a fair trial with the whole country watching? I believe so. OJ certainly got a fair trial. Casey Anthony certainly got a fair trial. I think the defense suggesting an alternate suspect is bad. I've made this comment before. As a defense attorney, you never say that, because then the burden of proof comes to you to actually prove that someone else committed the crime, and the burden of proof is always on the government. Um, so, that's what we have. I'm looking forward to that case. Karen Reed trial should be done probably in another month. P. Diddy's going to be another 2 months. I believe that P. Diddy is going to get convicted. So I already talked about Kitty Lore. She says that she has 2 cameras at her place and it's a small apartment. They're common. Security cameras are so common. Um, Debbie Demeter says, "Hi, EB, what do you think of the beautiful act that is going on in the Senate for a vote?" I talked about it, Debbie, earlier. I think it's a disgrace. The fealty that these Congress people are showing to President Trump, certainly in the House, is just a lapdog. I mean, they're exercising no independence. They're going back on what they campaigned on when Mike Lawler campaigned. He said he was running specifically on the state and local income tax being fully deductible. That's what got him in office. Now he's okay with only a $40,000 cap. The Kitty Lore asked, "What's the latest on Becky Hill?" There's really no issue. What she's accused of is disgraceful. If she's found guilty, she should serve time. But it does not have an effect on the appeal, because the appeal are on 2 big issues. Should Judge Newman have let the financial crimes cases, the financial crimes, be introduced as evidence for his motive for having killed Maggie and Paul? And then the second is Justice Toll's jury issue on whether the jury tampering should apply to the state standard, where you have to show that jurors were affected by the verdict, as opposed to the more liberal federal standard, which Dick and Jim argued for, which is only showing there was juror interference. Sunny Day says they should drop the Karen Reed charges. Too much doubt, bad investigation. I tend to agree with that. I think that they focus too much on Karen. Certainly the investigation wasn't up to snuff, but something in me tells me that she may get convicted of something this time. So everybody, I appreciate you listening. Thanks for your questions and tuning in. Not too much of a long news program this week. First time I think in a while I've gone under 30 minutes. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend. EB out.